just made it in time, and Elin, of course, knows me as two of you. So, yes, I'm Ramona Harrison. I've been sort of coming in and out of Iceland for the better part of the past 22 years. I've done a bit of work with a lot of you sitting in this room, actually. For those of you who don't know me, I sort of did all my uni education in New York. Been a bit obsessed with what's going on right now, but sort of always, and I am from Europe, so Iceland has actually, or had been sort of my anchor in Europe for many years. And then I moved to Norway, basically, well, luckily I got a job, I think, luckily, but mostly because I could be neighbor to here and have an easier time coming back and forth. And so what I'm going to be talking about today is a little bit of new stuff, quite a lot of old stuff, not just archaeology, but also my research. So for those of you who have seen it before, apologies, but that's what we do when we pretend to be grown-ups. And then I'm going to end up with where we are now, which is about, well, I'm at least a month or maybe 5 years behind the plan. Anyway, there's a few nice pictures. How about that? Yeah. Okay, let's see this one. Oh, yeah. And of course, Kristin is here because I am going to talk about zoo archaeologists. I am a zoo archaeologist. It's Kristin who has worked with me through the past 4 years, and who is going to write this fantastic PhD on everything that I claim we're doing. Well, some of it, you don't have to do all of it. And then, of course, Daniel Juliusson, who is the Icelandic, well, the main sort of PI on the Two Valleys project, right? And then we have a few of us in here who are also PIs. So if I say something that you don't agree with in the group, yell at me later. Yes, thank you. So just so we show where we are. Also, I've created some of our slides from the EA. Just to show where we are and what it is we're doing. What I've been trying to do together with many others for years and years is sort of, I feel like, take small bits of, Midden samples, so garbage, old people's old garbage from very long ago, the contents of that, and sort of try to figure out what people on certain farmsteads might have done in terms of farming economy, what their everyday life might have been like. But of course, we only have a bit of a snapshot through time from ideally very well stratified and defined cultural layers that ideally cover several centuries of our research interests, which in Iceland luckily is about 12 to 1300 years. So we don't have to deal with the messy Stone Age or, the Bronze Age or the early Iron Age. But of course, when we talk about the Iron Age, and you know this better than me, we have sort of inherited the late Iron Age farming strategies and then the Viking Age farming strategies, right? Amongst other things. What I'm, of course, doing, and many of us, is trying to find small little proxy indicators of human environment interactions of the past. So we have to be quite good about understanding that we're looking at small samples of places in time, and then me and especially other colleagues try to put some real proper natural science methods onto the small samples. Tell us what it is we're looking at, right? And then we're trying to put it back into a human environment or human behavior interaction or system. And this is just to show you where we are. So we're talking about those. We're going to be talking about Eyjafjörður and especially Hörgárdalur as sort of the background to Gaussier excavations, and then also Svarfaðardalur and Skíðadalur. So that's henceforth Two Valleys. And what we're trying, the whole project, and I'm going to introduce the project as a whole because none of you have heard it enough. in a moment. But what we're trying to do is sort of pull together different scales of past human activities from different disciplines, different perspectives, and different sort of knowledge bases, and try to sort of weave together this very interdisciplinary but also very complex tapestry, if you like. Yeah, I'm not the first one to use that either. Of sort of past human activities based on the scales of the scales of investigation that we're looking at. So either we're looking at documentary resources or paleoecology, pollen, for example, or garbage heaps with loads and loads of ash layers, and also organic, ideally, remains and other remains. This is just, this is not my map. Clearly, I'm not a GIS specialist, but this is basically sort of an overall of what kind of sites we have done and what kind of activities we have done. If you want to know more about that, you can ask Arne Daniel and also Elin. I think we have it in the reports. So, yeah. So what we're trying to do then is sort of say something about, you know, large scale sort of global, or at least bigger than international goings on in the medieval and also post-medieval history of Europe, but then also try to figure out what that looks like on a human scale or on a farm scale. Again, going through the proxy data that we have available. Yes. And basically the point that I'm trying to do is make this that it is really a sort of an exercise in bringing together enormously well-educated people and also their data sets, their very important data sets, and then sort of try to actually address one question or several questions that we have about the past. And I know most of you have been dabbling with this, but I also know that once we have a bit of a better idea of what it is we are doing ourselves, we also start trying realizing what our limits are, disciplinary limits, but then also try to sort of see where we can move together, right? And just to put this out there, not to insult anybody, but us archaeologists are used to having to understand other disciplines' languages very well, and then go into sort of move into other disciplines spheres, so we can have this analysis together, if you like. And then because Arne Daniel is a medieval historian, sort of the Black Death impacts in the 15th century were sort of on his mind for a long time. And I thought that was a good idea. We thought that was a good idea. So we then started to think about how we could pick up the sort of physical imprints, if you like, of the pre and post Black Death sort of human environment interactions, if you like, based on the samples and the investigations that we did. And this is just building on sort of old research. Well, my research from a long time ago, Arne Daniel's research from a long time ago, Elin's research from a long time ago. And I've been sort of always busy figuring out how Gaussier in the past, in the Middle Ages, impacted, how the activities, the organization of trade and exchange at Gaussier, or at least the physical sort of location of this trade and exchange being witnessed at Gaussier, could have had something, could have had an impact on the organization of the farming economies and the foci in the immediate hinterlands, if you like. And that's arguably, so that's my immediate hinterlands idea. But then also how it was impacted by the different sort of sites and organizations, and also economic organizations in the area. So, for example, what did it have to do? You know, what kind of impact did it have on our coastal fishery sites, and how much do we know about it? So what kind of exchange systems were in place? And again, I'm dealing with very small samples of digging very nicely organized, yeah, some are bigger, things like, yeah, of sort of site samples, if you like, of site garbage samples that are often chronological, but in order to get the chronological knowledge, we have to do a lot of analysis there. But trying to sort of see how Gaussir was placed within its immediate environment, but then also the research grew and grew and grew. Skripki started in Hörgárdalur, started as a small midden trench and turned out into a still small farmhouse, but still, or gruvehus if you like, still sort of extended excavation where we also have sort of the earliest occupation architecture there, if you like. And then Siglunes was a sort of rescue excavation where we just basically managed to document the coastal erosion areas and sort of are still working through the amounts of maybe not so small samples that we have come from. So basically the story, especially Midden archaeology, is ideally a shorter one than a large scale structural excavation, because we're digging these phone booth trenches, if you like, but the aftermath, if you're lucky and you actually get really well preserved archaeofauna and other organic and non-organic archaeological remains and also artifacts, is that you then have to deal with them and analyze them, so you actually have an idea of what it was you were actually rescuing there. Anyway, as you all probably know better than me, Gaussir and also Möðruvöllur, and a lot of other sites in Eyjafjörður were, of course, historically much more connected or much more widely connected to the surrounding farmsteads and also farmlands, and then also fishery areas than just these 3-4 that I did for the PhD that I worked on. So then one had to sort of figure out how to go about connecting all of this, not just internationally, but also, yeah, that was a bit cheeky, but one does try to sell. How does one connect, first of all, the sites that one knows about, not just in terms of what archaeofauna or what other organic materials come out of it, or what archaeological materials come out of it, but also how does one know that one is dealing with a chronology that one could actually use to compare and contrast. We have missed almost nothing. So basically, my job for a while, and other people have done it elsewhere, but in Eyjafjörður, or the sites that I'm mentioning, has been locating farm mount middens that then have very well sort of delineated cultural layers from different time periods, ideally. And then on top of that, have actually proper archaeofaunal remains and also other organic and inorganic remains. So, and that alone, it's going very slowly, but it is slowly building up sort of a more regional chronology than we had before. But of course, and it's, you know, we're getting more and more. Some of this, especially in red, is information that we had from the historical documentation. So Arne Daniel helped a bit there. But some of the sites, as you know, we didn't know very much about. We don't know if we have the correct site names or not, but we know a little bit more about what it is, what we found and when we found. But of course, I am not a historian. I'm a sort of decent field archaeologist, or was once upon a time. I'm quite okay to archaeologist. Mostly I'm getting very good at keeping Excel files in check. So to make and sort of try to organize data sets and then ideally also make sense of them. But of course, I am only one person, and even though I have Kristin now who is doing something, she's also only one other person. So the point of it all is, of course, doing this as a zooarchaeologist who is, you know, at some point, sometimes was sort of kind of okay having a very poor conversation in Icelandic, but really not knowing anything about the, you know, how to do historiography and all of that. Of course, I couldn't do this properly by myself. So that's when we started having this idea of bringing together the friends and colleagues that were interested in Eyjafjörður. Árni Daniel likes Svarfaðardalur a little bit more than I do. I like Hörgárdalur a little bit more than he does, but and I think Elin is very generous about both sides. Yeah, not gonna ask you. But anyway, we sort of got together some of the sort of best people that we knew about, and of course, Eyjafjörður has this very great environmental history, sort of natural sciences bang there. So we were able to apply and then get after 2, 3, 4 attempts, 4, yeah, a sort of large RANNÍS research grant, and that was very special because this was granted for humanities research, which is very nice. Archaeology doesn't often get, or back then didn't get granted so many RANNÍS big science funds. So then the big question was, and this is, I did not start with this question. This didn't come from me. I usually think the trench and then coming out and then coming back to the larger question, but also what does this material, do these materials tell us about what we thought we were finding, and then what do the next one? So I'm not very sort of big picture until I have to be. So it's kind of you know, different multi-scale and wide scale, and then but also ground truthing. So it did need sort of a bigger question that had been built up by scholars in Iceland. So basically, the question then became, well, this is just one part of it. How did these basically egalitarian Icelandic settlers, how did this society transform into a more complex and more stratified society? And of course, yeah, and then also, I cut that one out. You know, what do we observe pre and post 14th, 15th century Black Plague, Black Plague sort of pandemic? How did this translate into the settlement organization in these two valley systems? And these questions, of course, when you have to put these out, they're not as complex and nuanced as they actually are, but you need to write something down for the project to sort of be clear. Anyway, I promised that I would deal with this question based on the proxy data that we found out of some of those middens. So as I had written in the abstract, which I don't know if you bothered reading, it's okay. It basically promised that we would find in core and then also hopefully test trench midden sites associated with farm mounds or farm sites that we didn't know anything about historically, or that we were wondering about what kind of information we might get out in addition to what we knew, and also sort of trying to cover in Hörgárdalur and in Svarfaðardalur sites of different social standing. And that sounded really good on paper, but we also, and we really tried to do that. But of course, the reality of archaeology is often, you know, more complicated. Well, it always is, but also you just never know what you find until you go looking for it. And so we did core 9, at least 9 sites, yeah. Both in Hörgárdalur, but especially in Svarfaðardalur and Skíðadalur, because sort of the work that I have done in Hörgárdalur hasn't really been built up in the valley system up north, but of course we have many more historical data sets. So we try to sort of extend the time period of knowledge, if you like, of information up there further back in time. And also sort of comparing contrast with Hörgárdalur and see what it is we're looking at, if it's something typical or not, and do we even know? So my job and Kristin's job then was to sort of address this question of changes in settlements hierarchy, and also sort of maybe even social or hierarchical, sort of economic level through time, as well as the sort of farm management and the effects on the landscape, but also the landscape's effect on the humans living there, working on it via animal bones and also dirt, by looking at doing the macro analysis of the bones and sort of trying to categorize enough so we can say something about the farm economy over time, if we had these nicely delineated periods in time per site, but also use the colleagues and collaborations that we have to really look at the biochemical sort of makeup micro analysis. And also try to figure out if we're finding anything that we're missing in the sediment, in the dirt DNA. So this collaboration with the Sea Change project came about because they needed to test out some of the methodologies they had collected up from modern dirt DNA and tried to sort of apply it to archaeological sites. Yes, but in order to get those samples, basically one has to really be sort of trying to dig through people's garbage and make sense, or at least claim to make sense of what these people were doing. And we tried to do that, in Kongsstaðir, in Skíðadalur, where we placed many core dirt what do you call it, Midden cores, where into 3 different targets. The sort of the historical claim was that the Midden was here, and there was a Midden, but it was completely disturbed. So and it was sort of 19th century. So then Jack and I had to go and sort of do a sort of very large coring exercise until we found a Midden that was stratified, and we did it was really lovely summer in 2021, and nice weather, and we did a very nice job going down stratigraphically correct as possible, but the organic preservation was awful. So we have to sort of use the few animal bones that we have, and we are getting ready to get them sorted out, and also dirt DNA to sort of tell us a little bit about what kind of animal species we may or may not have had there. And then we went back to an area that I've been interested in for a very long time, Sartunga in Hörgárdalur. And there we also put many cores into the huge Midden Mount, and were able to find some quite nice stratified Midden areas where 1,000 years of farming operation had not obliterated the chronology, if you like, entirely. This is Kristin digging through 1300 tephra and finding a whale bone, but she had found it before she dug down. This is 1104 tephra that's covering, the cultural layers, if you like, from underneath down till Landnam. So we have two trenches from Staratunga. One is 1700 roughly through Nottingham, and the other one is 1933 to all the way down. So, which is fantastic, incredible layering. All the C14, the dirt DNA, all the other stuff is happening nowish. But it's already very pretty art, if you like. This is trench 3. We have another one. We had a small team. We were hamstrung, if you like, by COVID. So the 2 master students that came from Bergen, they didn't get very sick, but oh, did I do something? It's okay. It's okay. Yeah. Oh, it's not. Sort of, they needed a bit of extra care, so we got slowed down, and also we were a small team. We dug deep trenches. We tried to be as careful as possible with the materials that we got out. Lots of sieving. So these trenches are very much deserved. So Kristin will have any samples that she needs. And then we went to Tjörn in Svarfaðardalur, and all of you know this much better than I do. What site this was. Christian grew up in there, and there was an old farm house, the old farmhouse right here. This is the new one. Here is the famous church and cemetery. Here is the church actually. And we were trying our best to find midden layers that were not completely disrupted by modern building debris, and that was very hard. We basically, you see this small trench here that's all the way down here, and you would think, oh, why didn't you dig into here or here? Well, we cored, and some of the cores were 2 meters deep, and we really tried to figure out. But then I kind of understood quite well what the tephra layers looked like, and we had a quite decent methodology in place, which Kristin will explain another time. Yeah. Basically, just really good. The great recording sheets developed by FSE, even bit more developed. Yeah. But basically that was the bit that we found that was not disturbed by modern materials. It's still that small trench was still cutting into one farm wall that's probably from an earlier building, then cutting through a farm wall, a farmhouse wall, with a turf wall from a very early building. So we're still figuring out the proper chronology there, but we have seen London there, and we have definitely seen post 1300s, the 1300 AD and post. So we have a story there. We're just now getting ready to sort of figure it out. And that's why I'm on and on about sampling, and this is why I am 1 month or 5 years behind time, because that's where the Excel sheets come in. So after I and now Kristin here have analyzed the first bunch of animal bones, and CC will know this very well. Then you go back to try to figure out, so what is it that we need to know, and how do we go about knowing it based on animal bones? These are cod premaxilla bones, cod jaw bones here. And these are to go to Nicole Misarti in University of Alaska, who will actually do magic with compound, with bulk and then maybe compound specific isotope analysis. If you want to know more about this, I can give you the gist of it, but the details somebody else needs to tell you exactly. But we are, and these are Sigluness bones, because Kristin took the pictures of Tjörn, and I haven't. Yeah, we're gonna swap them. Anyway, we're gonna try to find out how these animal bones from these contexts sort of fit in with other sites that we have samples from, and also whether we can say something about the sort of predator sort of or the sort of the niche behavior of these animals over time, and also maybe where they came from. Right now we're dealing with who ate whom, and then if the compound specific comes in, then the story will be a bit more clear. What we're also doing with Turton and with the other sites is we teamed up with our colleagues at the Globe Institute in Denmark who are doing sedimentary DNA. And so we have samples from a lot of the two valley sites, not just from work package 2, but also work package 1. We have 1 or 2 sites where we had Midden. So basically what they wanted from us is small samples of dirt from the cultural layers that we had analyzed, and trying to figure out what kind of animal species they can pick up. So if they just get sheep and goat and cow, cattle, okay, that's fine. If we have that in the context itself, then that's a nice sort of study, if you like. But I am hoping that they can pick up on things that we don't see, either because the preservation was so very, very poor, or because we just don't get it in the Midden. But with the DNA, they can pick up on animals that were around in the area. So it doesn't necessarily need them to be butchered or discarded into the Midden heap. So, but of course, this is still early times, so we need to figure out what that all means together with them once they have the samples analyzed. And we just sent them the samples a little while ago. Yeah. So everything's happening. Ideally, at one point, we don't just talk about the archaeology, but also a little bit beyond the archaeology, and not just the site archaeology, but also what that means for the region. But I will come back to that once we have gotten a little bit further along. Some of you might have read Campanas and Edal, Edal. Yes, of course, you all have seen it. The recent paper that has come out about cod fishery, cod size and age, based on otoliths mostly. Also including, of course, George Hamworth and Nicole Mizarti. So basically what we're doing is trying to do some decent proper archaeology, Midden archaeology, and then also provide samples of animals, animal bones from contexts that we are fairly secure in dating to our colleagues who can do not magic, but more biochemical analysis than we can, of course. And we try to combine it all, since we are in the age of scientific archaeology. Yeah. What we are doing now, which is actually, that was the one planned thing that we had worked on, is send sheep teeth to Ingrid mainland, who will do tooth wear analysis, macro tooth wear analysis, and also we're going to have them, there's going to be oxygen isotope analysis. So hopefully we can learn a bit about the grazing areas, so the sort of the marks that were left on the sheep teeth, and also hopefully a little bit about where in the valley system they were placed. It's not sure that we have enough vertical altitude difference, but we're going to try and see what we pick up there. So, and then together with Philippa and Ingrid and the other colleagues, we're going to try to make something out. But what we are doing is trying to pull together the different sort of strands of information that we have and that we're going to have, and sort of try to think about, that's what we're trying to do now, how we're going to address those questions actually, and who of us in the different work packages can say, what can we say, what can we contribute, and it's going to be a lot of back and forth, and we're starting with this work now, which getting back to it. So, and then this is basically a lot about whose turf did it anyway. But that, of course, is not just the Midden archaeology, that is also the history, but especially also the turf wall analysis and research that Elin and Stefan are doing. And this is the landowner, Svarfaðardalur, who wanted to be an archaeologist but became a veterinarian, but she's very interested. Yeah, this is one of our side dogs.